So enter the quirky Christmas hero that all grots across the galaxy need and deserve. Let's take a look at the datasheet for the Red Gobbo and Bouncer. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, and today we're taking a look at the datasheet for one of Games Workshop's sillier creations of late, the slightly random new Christmas miniature that the Red Gobbo has received. First we'll talk a bit about the model itself, and then go through his rules and the new datasheet that he's received in the box. So the Red Gobbo is a bit of a recurring theme for Games Workshop. He's had a couple of previous incarnations in the past, including this Christmas tree waving one from 2 years ago. In the background he's a character from really quite a long time ago. He's the leader of the rebel Grots on Gorkamorka, a Grot tribe with some vaguely communist tropes, throwing off the oppressing shackles of their orc overlords, and rising up to seize control of their own destiny. I'm not sure if he really had all that much Christmas connotations before this one a couple of years ago, but now we've got a new miniature for him. It does seem that he's cementing his reputation as the official face of Christmas for Games Workshop. It's perhaps quite a lot of tropes to be stacking on one miniature. An orc who's also a revolutionary, who's also in some ways Santa. Pretty mad, but certainly seems like the leader that I'd want if I was a grot under the boot heel of orc society. Miniature-wise, he's only going to be around for a limited run. He's available until the 31st of December, and he's going to be a made-to-order one, so if they do run out of stock, then they might well ship him very, very late. I think the shipping thing said around about 180 days later, so it does sound like there's a good chance of receiving your Christmas-themed grot in summer. I guess at least he'd be round for next Christmas that way. Pricing-wise, he does seem to be in line with most of Games Workshop's characters, £23.50, $35 or €30. A bit on the hefty size, but I don't think it's generally going to be marketed to most players. He's a bit more of a collector's piece and a painting project, maybe something to look nice on your shelf at a festive sort of time of year. I'm not sure it's the most aesthetic miniature Games Workshop have ever made, but it is quite fun. The poor squig's been dressed up in reindeer antlers, though I suppose that's better than being a bomb squig laden with explosives. Though there is a stick bomb in the model in the shape of a nice candy cane. We've then got the Red Gobbo himself dressed up as Santa, but with a nice revolutionary looking star symbol on his hat. He isn't just a fun looking miniature though, because they have gone to the effort of actually giving him some rules for 40k. Much like the previous version of the Red Gobbo though, they are only for narrative play. He does come with a power level in the box, but he doesn't have any sort of official points cost, which is what you'd need to include him in matched play games. So far, I believe the rules are only available in a datasheet in the box. I don't think that Warhammer community have announced them yet at any point. He is power level 4 though, so you could maybe say he's 80 points for more casual games if you desired, but at the moment he wouldn't be a legal model for things like tournaments, not that you'd really want to field him there I think, as he's more of a fun and fluffy character. In any case, he appears to be an HQ choice at power level 4. He's got most of the keywords that you'd expect. He is a character, he's cavalry, he's got the Gretchen and the Squig keywords. Though being a bit of an independent operative, he doesn't have any sort of clan keyword, meaning that you couldn't make him snake bites or things to make that Squig get +1 to wounds. His stat line isn't too bad. He's got a movement of 10 inches, weapon skill 4+, ballistic skill 3+, strength 3, toughness 5, 5 wounds, 3 attacks, leadership 6 and a 4+ save. As it goes, that's really not too bad for a Gretchen. With Bouncer's extra attacks, at least he could fight against some of the minor orc support characters. He might outpace his fellow Grots and Killer Cans if he was leading them into battle, but I guess at least he can get good positioning while doing so, and can make long charges if he needs to. Wargear wise, he's armed with his custom Grot Blaster, Bouncer's Jaws and Stick Bombs. The custom Grot Blaster isn't too bad. It's a 12-inch Daka 3-2 weapon, and far better than the junk that is given to the rank and file, as it's got a mighty strength 5, AP -1 and damage 2. Hopefully that should give him a fairly decent chance of splatting something like a Space Marine each turn. He's slightly more dangerous in close combat, as he gets 3 attacks just at his base profile at strength 3, but the main threat comes from Bouncer, strength 6, AP -2 and damage 2, and he makes exactly 3 attacks with that profile, with any wound rolls of a 6 causing a flat 3 mortal wounds and the attack sequence ending. I do quite like the way that Bouncer is basically like a mini beast boss on a Squigosaur. His bite's far more dangerous than a Squig Hog or even a Smasher Squig. Still though, it's never going to be all that reliable, only hitting on 4s. Again, I think you're about odds on to kill something like 1 Space Marine a turn, or maybe a bit better if you're targeting light infantry, or get lucky and roll some 6s. Finally, last but not least, he has a few special rules. He gets the War special rule, which means that if you've got a War boss as your Warlord, then he might be able to advance and charge for a turn, which would be fun, though the +1 attack isn't going to be all that relevant when he's only hitting at strength 3. Next up, he's got a leadership buff called Da Revolution, that's +1 to combat attrition tests for Grots. As it goes, that is kind of relevant, as they usually get -1 to attrition tests normally. And of course there might not be quite as many runt herds around if the Grots have disposed of their orc overlords. As it goes, that could genuinely be quite relevant for things like killer cans or mech guns. You wouldn't be able to prevent the first one from running, but hopefully no more than one would run each turn. Then we've got an army composition rule called Red Gobbo. That means he can be included in your army without breaking any clan cultures. Quite a useful quality of life one that, otherwise you'd probably only want to run him in auxiliary support detachments at great expense of CP. But on the downside, if you make him your warlord, then he can only get the inspiring leader warlord trait. That's the one that gives you +1 to leadership for nearby models. I guess for orcs with their very low leadership, that's really not the worst buff ever. Again, it could be very relevant if you're using it with killer cans or mech guns, though I don't think it really stacks up compared with things like brutal but cunning from the main orc codex. Finally, we have pointy decorations, making this guy into a mini smasher squig all by himself. When you contact an enemy, on a 4+, the enemy suffers D3 mortal wound impact hits. Nowhere near as reliable as the actual smasher squigs one, to be honest, but certainly won't hurt if he's charging certain targets. Between that and Bouncer's jaws, he could have a decent chance of soloing a squad of light infantry perhaps. Overall, I think it's obviously largely intended just to be a fun and fluffy miniature, not one that you're going to want to include for any sort of power combos or anything like that. If you just compare his base stats to a knob on a smasher squig, I must admit the comparison isn't all that favourable. The smasher squig model's usually going to do better in combat between its jaws and the big chopper that the knob wields hitting on 3s. It's slightly tougher and actually gains a clan culture as well. The impact hits are far more impressive, though admittedly the Red Gobbo does have a slight shooting advantage in that custom Grot blaster. Really though, this is definitely a model that you just want to include for fun reasons. Would be a pretty fun choice to lead a rebel Grots army, or could just look pretty cute following in the wake of a massive great big war boss on a squigosaur, even if I'm sure he'd strongly disapprove of an orc being in charge. So let me know what you think of the datasheet down in the comments below. I'd certainly be interested if you have used him in any games so far. Did he manage to dole out his own brand of Christmas presents direct to the enemy's face? If you've enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, or I'll certainly keep the regular 40k content coming, with new videos out just about every day. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention one way in which you can help support if you'd like to. That's my Element Games affiliate link down in the video description, a discount retailer within the UK that sells Games Workshop's miniatures for a bit less than they do. Usually they have 10 to 20% off Games Workshop's models, and if you order anything after clicking the link in the video description, a small amount goes to help support Auspex Tactics without costing you any more whatsoever. Can just be a way to help support if you were thinking about ordering in some miniatures sometime soon. For people over in the USA, I do also have an Amazon affiliate link down in the video description too. That one works in much the same way. Click the link, order literally anything whatsoever, and a small amount goes to help support the channel. Can be one way to support if you were thinking about buying something anyway. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.